Hello and welcome everyone to the GGG Podcast, episode 41. Got a good show for you this week. As always, I am Paul and I am joined by illustrious Phil, making another appearance on this week's episode. We're back to illustrious. Does it feel good to be illustrious again?
I think what helps is that I pushed my hair back and you could really see the luster on my forehead because there is a lot of it.
Very good.
You might go blind, people at home, so just watch with shades on.
Yes, or listen to the audio-only version on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. All right, we got a good show. We got a lot of interesting news to break down, talk about. Got some updates, some announcements, some press releases. Not really any major game releases this week, so we're gonna skip right over that. But before we get to the news, Phil. What have you been up to this week? What have you been playing in your spare time?
I have been playing a series of games. I've actually had a pretty game-heavy week. I played a couple of board games, magic games, but that's not what the show's about. The show's about video games, and let me tell you about the video game that I've been playing the most.
Okay.
That is Flintlock.
Oh.
Flintlock, subtitle after that. I will never learn it. I'm encouraging them not to use that subtitle. Just call it Flintlock. The game rocks. It rules. You can do so much cool stuff. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, I've really been enjoying it. It is a Dark Souls style game with challenging combat, a lot of counter mechanics that are pretty forgiving, so you don't have to really sweat too hard to do it. Mm-hmm. And really cool mobility features and this really interesting story that I am 100% in on. You're killing gods and you have a cool little sidekick. That's it. It's amazing.
Okay. Yeah. What does it feel like? What's a adjacent feel game? That was a horrible way to phrase that, but you know what I'm saying.
No. I got exactly what you mean. It kind of feels like a blend of God of War and Bloodborne, which is weird because you have a gun that is an interrupt, using your axe and that in a combination, as well as a couple of other weapons that you can switch between, as well as some magic. So the combat kind of starts out pretty simple, and then all of a sudden you're throwing together these combos where you're having your little fox dude fly into somebody. And then as they're getting ready for attack, you stun them with a shot and then run up and do a special attack.
Right.
Yeah, it's really fun, and I think it's kind of right in that zone of AA games that can sometimes really pop off. I think it's up there maybe not as good for me, but Remnant kind of fulfills that same spot of oh, this is interesting lore. It's not tied to another IP, and it's really fun to play. And sort of just the mysteries that you find by jumping around the level, and getting to places that you probably shouldn't be is really, really fun.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Yeah.
Have you been up to anything else?
Since yesterday, I've been playing Marvel Rivals in the closed alpha, closed beta. I forget what it, but we'll talk more about that later in the show. But what have you been playing, Paul?
Some usual suspects. Still play a little bit of Starfield. Still doing a lot of ship customization and stuff like that. Played a lot of the finals. Trying to climb the ranks in the finals. Trying to break back into Silver League like I used to be. But it is tough, man. Let me tell you, it's just some of the teammates you get paired up with, and I always try to enter the chat, and I'll do push to talk so my mic isn't just going off. But some people they just don't want to group up ever, and it's if you turn the corner and you're one person against three other people, you're gonna lose. So
yeah,
I get we're all trying to do these pro gamer hardcore parkour tricks like in the finals. But at the end of the day, it's about getting the cash box and winning the game. And that's one of the reasons I like the game so much. It's not about like how many kills you get. I mean, you want to have like a good stat line, but it's like, yeah, that's not the objective. We need to get the cash, and if getting the cash means we camp in the back while the other three teams fight, then that's what we do, because it means that we're moving on to the next round.
There's something to like having a team that knows to like, let's just wait until a team wins and then get them while they're recovering.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, they just aren't patient, and so they just want to go and because there's 3 classes in that game, and so all the light builds, they always are just running around nowhere near the team. And so the couple instances where I've actually like won the finals or moved up in the ranks have just been the team actually wants to stick together and play together. But there's just a lot of people who don't want to do that. And it's like, go play COD if this is what you want to do.
I love the light players. Or like, there's always that type of like build where it's like this character can move fast, and so they do, and then they're out there like 30 meters ahead of you, and they're like, "Where's my support? Where's my support?" It's like we both spawned at the same time. You were just running on your own.
And there's a heavy build. He can't move as fast as you. You have to wait. So move fast if you need to move fast. Don't move fast just to be Sonic and just run directly into the firefight. So I've been playing a lot of that. Been getting very engaged with the finals, and then got back into No Man's Sky, updated it for Worlds Part 2, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then that's pretty much been it. Been playing Stardew Valley on my portal, so that's been nice. Before bed, Stardew Valley.
That's the right game. Like I have it on Switch. I have it on Switch, PC, and PlayStation. And one of the things that I love is that game on Switch, because just sitting up with it and like doing a couple days at a time and then setting it down is the right way to engage with that game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great. It's been great. I'm very excited. So, but aside from that, not really too much. But yeah, I'm excited to get into the news, and the first story in the news, so I can talk about No Man's Sky. And it sounded like you actually played No Man's Sky a little bit as well, part of this latest update. So
I did.
Yeah, so we got another Sean Murray update where it's No Man's Sky Worlds Part 1 has released. And that's right, it is Part 1, so there will be a No Man's Sky Worlds Part 2, and there's a lot of updates, quality of life fixes to the game. There's a completely, it's the same engine, but a completely new water system within that engine. And so now there's like new features with building. You could build underwater bases before, but now you can like land your ships on water, which is really cool. And just the water, I built a base on a water planet, and seeing the physics and how they move now, it's just so much better. And it finally like brought, it's not like advanced, it's not an advanced water system, but it brought it up to the standard of what water in video games should be, as opposed to just being some like weird line that now you're beneath like
that now everything's blue tinted.
Yes. The Skyrim water,
Skyrim water is the wildest one, because like you see the waves, then you go under and everything looks exactly the same except you're underwater.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really enjoying it. I have a pretty deep playthrough of No Man's Sky where I have like a lot of money and resources and everything like that. But I guess like I played it for quite a bit, but what always ends up happening with No Man's Sky is like I don't know where to put my focus. Like there's so many things to do, like I don't know what is going to be the most efficient use of my time as far as but I don't think that's the type of game it is. I think it's the type of game of just like, well, you just play for a bit, if something cool happens, and that's what happens. True. So how's your experience been?
the mission of the game being like get to the center of the universe, which is I feel like kind of lost now. Like now it's just do cool stuff in space.
Yeah, that I don't even think that's part of the story anymore.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that was a weird drive and kind of I feel like a misstep as No Man's Sky has had just in its launch. I will say to Sean Murray, if you are listening, I know you love the podcast. Thanks for listening.
yeah. Peace out.
You don't got to keep doing it, man.
He's gonna. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care what we say.
How is he making money? I don't get it. Like I feel like at this point everyone has No Man's Sky sitting on some hard drive somewhere. You know?
Yeah,
I don't know if there's any new sales going on.
There are microtransactions in No Man's Sky.
Okay.
So, like, I believe, like, you know, for cosmetics and stuff like that. So the hardcore fans are still purchasing
Plugging away.
Quicksilver and nanites and, you know, which you can also earn in game, I believe. So yeah, but yeah, he keeps updating it.
Interesting. I mean, you know what? I am glad to see. Like I say that jokingly. I'm glad to see that like the game's kind of fulfilling its promise. I will say No Man's Sky is always tough because I had like I think a PlayStation 4 save and then it didn't update with me over to PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. So ever since I've like every time there's a really cool update, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try it again, and I have to do so much rebuilding from ground zero on PlayStation 5, mm-hmm. And it really just kind of bumps me out. So I haven't gotten to experience a lot of the great new stuff and a lot of like, I feel like every time I go back to it, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty much what I remember. And I think the issue with the game is that like the grind that's built into it mm-hmm. can be a little smothering. Yeah.
Definitely. I think there's so many different resources in the game. It's too much. Mm-hmm. There are some things that like mitigate that. Like it's been this way for a little bit, but like whenever you go to a new star station, if you go to your like exosuit upgrade merchant, you can purchase a new slot for your inventory, and to my knowledge, it seems to be infinite. Where it's like if you keep going to star stations and you buy a slot, and it used to be like the price would get exponentially bigger,
higher,
but now they've kept it as just like it's 200,000 credits, you know, and like I have like 200 million credits in that game, so it's not a big deal for me. That is because a very nice random player gifted me a bunch of credits once in a lobby, though.
But you turned that gift into more money.
I did. I started a settlement. It's called Copper's Crossing, and we make
invested
money.
Properly.
Yeah. But you voiced that you were playing on creative mode, or I don't know if that's exactly the name of the mode, but I have another friend who has tried the game like that. Can you explain the difference in the style of gameplay with that?
You know, I don't know if I was on creative mode or like chill mode, because it starts the same way as the normal game. Like there is a relaxed setting, mm-hmm. because I felt the grind was too smothering before, like where you just you're constantly doing stuff to just survive. So it's like I want to try one where I can like get a handle on my resources and have like a bunch extra, and even that, like I just felt like, okay, this is kind of repetitive. I just need to put more time into it. So I haven't had experience with creative mode, just a more like relaxed version of the regular game.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious because like I completely agree with the resource management, the inventory slot management, the amount of different things that you need to fix different parts of your ship or whatever. It's a lot. And so I really think the onboarding for new players has gotten better, but there's a lot of game there. So one thing I wanted to bring up is just because I've been seeing all these No Man's Sky videos with the Iron Vulture is this new ship that they've put into the game. But that was back in May with its previous update that they did. And it's part of No Man's Sky's Expeditions, which I believe they're going into Expedition 14. And I I wasn't familiar with expeditions at all, where it's like this custom quest line that they release, and if you play through that quest line, you're rewarded with a ship usually, but also like other things. And now that Expedition 13 is over, I cannot get the Iron Vulture ship in the game, and I'm pissed off about it. It's for the loyal fans, I guess. So yeah, but I was trying to figure, because they also added the Starship customizer, which is also kind of a pain in the ass, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've messed around with that on one of the star stations or anything.
But just barely on one of my previous, like, hey, I'm back.
Right.
Into the game, you know.
Well, the way it works is like you cannot make custom ship parts. You have to salvage ship parts from ships that you own.
Okay.
And like at first I was like, okay, all right, that's fine. And so like I went and I just bought like a couple ships that came into the star station and salvaged them. But when you salvage them, they only you have to pick which piece of the ship you're going to salvage. And
that sucks.
It does suck. It's like, oh, and you can't be like, oh, I want to salvage the wings. It's like, do you want to salvage the right wing or the left wing? And it's like, go
so bad.
yourself. Like, tell me, like, just if I salvage the ship, I should have all the parts of the ship. Like that is.
I think what you should do, like, the way to fix that is be like, all right, you're gonna salvage it. You're gonna mess up one part of the ship, but you'll get the rest.
Sure.
You're just gonna have to get rid of like the body or the landing gear. But,
yeah. So like that's been annoying, and like that's one of the things that I've been playing Starfield for, and it's different in the sense that I have more creative control in Starfield, not with base building, but. And there's just a lot of reasons to play No Man's Sky over Starfield. But like I have a freighter in No Man's Sky, but it's it's like to get a new freighter, you have to find one. You just have to be lucky, and you have to roll the dice, and you just have to keep exploring and hope that you find a freighter that you like and that's better than the one you already have. And like that is just such a time commitment of like, I don't know. It's like buying, booster packs for a card game. It's like, you don't know what you're going to get. Like it's so at least I don't have to pay, but it's
similar in time investment though. You're just like flying around like, oh, I got one. That's busted. It's real busted.
Yeah. I finally found a freighter, that was like, okay. And then I went in and it had garbage stats, and then it was going to cost like the majority of the money I had. And I was like, am I going to pay all this money for a marginally better freighter? So anyway.
Yeah.
But
I will. Oh yeah. You go for it.
No, you go. I've been talking too much.
No. I was just going to say that, one of the reasons I think I stopped playing No Man's Sky previously was they came out the VR update, and I played the brakes off the VR version of the game. It was like a little dizzying, but I feel like that was so immersive that it kind of takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails going back to regular.
Oh, okay.
Have you ever gotten to play in VR?
Not No Man's Sky, but I've played lots of other things in VR.
I just feel like that game, like, because you're sort of going into that space and like doing all this exploration and stuff. And they did a pretty excellent job of making it work in VR. Just like being able to look around your ship while you're flying somewhere and like interact with stuff. So, credit where credit's due, where that game is something completely different than it is when it launched. And that's pretty cool. I feel like I'm going to need some sort of long-term injury to just be able to really jive with No Man's Sky,
Well, that's if work lets you off.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
So before we move on, just to touch on some of the actual updates in part of this update. So we talked about the water system, but there's also been a number of like graphical and optimization updates. One of the problems I've had when running it on my computer is just the game feels like it's running on an old engine, and so like it takes a while to load, and sometimes there's clipping and screen tearing and all this other stuff, and it's like I have more than a powerful enough machine to run this game, so I don't know what the problem is, and so a lot of that seems to be fixed, which is great. Like initially when I first load back in, the initial load does still take a long time, but once I'm in the game and I give it a second to render, it runs pretty seamlessly, which has been nice to see. And I've actually been really curious if what they're doing is they're implementing systems in Light No Fire into this game to run it as like a beta, so which I think is kind of clever, but at the same time, it's just like, why don't you guys just work on Light No Fire?
Yeah, you guys want to just give me some more of that game that you showed us?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be super interesting seeing what they bring from No Man's Sky to Light No Fire.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say about No Man's Sky.
That's all he has to say about
it. I'm done with it.
All right. Well, something he probably has more to say about is Samurai Jack is officially joining Multiverses, with surprisingly BeetleJuice coming right after him. So how are we feeling about Samurai Jack entering the multiverse?
Super into it. He fits perfectly. That's the character that you need to be in the game. And not to say anyone else is not set. This update looks pretty cool. I think BeetleJuice they're probably just adding because of the BeetleJuice film coming out. The sequel.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But this is, I think, like the promise of Multiverses is giving us these iconic WB characters that are either very silly and that's why they're there, or very badass and that's why they're there. And this is like the perfect character who not only kind of aged with a lot of us who grew up during like the birth of Toonami, but then kind of had this really cool resurgence where he came back with this sort of like old man Logan style story. So yeah, I need to, I guess he's available yesterday, and I haven't played Multiverses all week because I've been really bummed about this Agent Smith like level up program, and seeing people play as him has bummed me out. So I'm just like, I'm not playing until I can buy him.
Just give it up. It's just not gonna happen. You got to spare 40 hours this week you can devote to Multiverses so you can get Agent Smith.
Well, here's the thing. I bought the version of the game when it was in beta that came with a bunch of character unlocks.
Yeah.
So I still have a fat chunk of those lying around. So I'm just gonna pick up the ones I want as I go. I'm just waiting for me to be able to use my vast wealth of character stuff to purchase him.
Yeah, I think.
But No Man's Sky is day one.
No Man's Sky is
day one. No Man's Sky. Samurai Jack is day one. No Man's Sky was day one for me, and then I was like, I need to come back to this later.
Same. It was too soon. Way too soon. Yeah, I'm super pumped about Samurai Jack. I completely agree. I think he's a perfect fit for this game. Cartoony, iconic. Yeah, wonderful addition. I hate the BeetleJuice edition. I think that it is the stupidest frickin' edition. It's just Warner Brothers clearly being like, hey, we need to remind you what franchises we own. And which feels very, very much like Space Jam 2, where it was just like, we're going to shove all of these franchises into this movie because we need you to remember that we, like Disney and like, Paramount and like all these other companies, we have franchises. Look at the franchises. And BeetleJuice does not fit in this game at all. Also, like, when I first saw the picture, the advertising icon, I thought it was like, oh, is that a skin for the Joker? Like that's what I thought. And it's like, you already have this character in the game. I get that they're technically different, but it's like, you just put the Joker in the game. Like, I don't need BeetleJuice. Like, So I
If
hate
they had put the Joker in during the beta and then Beetlejuice now, this would make some sense. Like a little bit more.
maybe, but I just I'm not. I don't care about Beetlejuice at all. I think he's just like to pair. Like I feel like you have to almost you're forced to pair him with Samurai Jack because Jack is such a slam dunk of a character to add. So anyway, I don't know. How do you feel about Beetlejuice?
I'm fine with him. Just okay. Here's why. In that game, there's a lot of cartoon characters that like
Yes.
use tune logic, and Beetlejuice just uses, I guess grown up overly goth cartoon logic. Like his head turns into like the weird thing. He got all of his dude opens his shirt, his guts fall out. Like he is basically a cartoon character, and I think that element of him fits. So that's, but I do think it is like kind of a wild choice, and I'm sure it's just like we're saving it for the Halloween part of our season, and also when Beetlejuice 2 comes out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I feel like we're getting some weird ads, like Jason Voorhees again. Cool, weird ad in my book.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Agent Smith. Why are you gonna have Agent Smith before you have Neo? Maybe the game needs more villains, but just feels a little strange.
There's no. I get that the game needs more villains, but why? Why? What are we looking at? Villain diversity? Like, what are we? Why?
The storyline is so important in this game.
Yes, clearly. Like, yeah, we need villains. Why? There's no like, oh, it's heroes versus villains mode or something like that.
No, it's everybody just hitting each other.
Yeah. So yeah, whatever. So
there does seem to be like a bit of a tease for the Animaniacs, and that I am very excited for.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. Any like more Looney Toony. We need some more Looney. Where's Daffy Duck? Like, where's Daffy at? Oh,
He's. I mean, Elmer Fudd and Daffy would be good. Almost like in Smash, how you have like those collectibles that show up and they like add a character who like or to add an effect. They would be good in that respect. Like a lot of cartoon characters, you could very easily. You could have Porky Pig come out and like stutter, and his spit like hit people and do lots of damage. There's so many cool things they could be taking advantage of, and I guess that's the part that bums me out the most about Beetlejuice to see like. So this is just corporate synergy versus
it's corporate
an
synergy.
Actual thing. Yeah.
Do you know?
Do I think it'll be fun to play? Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? Do you know if Warner Brothers owns Flubber?
I believe. Well, that's a tough one. I think the Robin Williams one is Disney.
Okay.
But I think the concept of Flubber might be like public domain or something because nobody's fighting to keep them rights.
I mean, I think Flubber would be a great addition. Just
honestly,
make him bigger. Like
the main crossover that I'd love to see is like a Marvel versus DC style Disney characters versus Warner Brothers characters. So have like Mickey Mouse show up, have Beast from Beauty and the Beast show up. Just those two though. No, it is this whole concept of theirs. Like while sometimes it can be fun, like in the Smash Brothers scenario, sometimes, and especially with Warner Brothers and the way they like to F things up, they are just going ham on. How do we make this make money? Throw Beetlejuice in there. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Corporate synergy, like you said. I completely agree with that. All right. Well, let's press on through the news. So Destiny is having another event. So it's Destiny 2 Solstice 2024. Because
that's like their Christmas. What is
it's 2K now. Like I just college football Destiny 2024. So they're having their Solstice event. It's a lot of PvP and PvE challenges. There's a number of, obviously, what's the thing you always work for in Destiny is cosmetics. And so there's a whole full sets of cosmetics for all three of the playable classes in Destiny. And they, as always, look really badass. So I'm not crapping on the cosmetics. But yeah, if you're interested in this new latest Destiny event. It looks really cool. It's got the golden glaze colors as well, so I think that's
That is
always a good vibe.
that is something, and I think legally we should reach out to them legally, have
Yeah,
our lawyer kind of
legally.
contact them and be like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
I think Destiny 2, just to speak on it for a second, I think they're in that weird space of like they just end gamed and now they're like, I think Final Fantasy 14 is in a similar spot where they're trying to figure out like what the next big launch is, and I think this is a very critical time. So this does seem like a little respite, like the joyful nature of it seems like, okay, we're all on vacation before the next big thing starts up. Like,
Right.
and granted, it's not a full DLC or expansion, but it does seem like, okay, what's following up our big thing? Just a cute little picnic with your friends.
Yeah, I mean they've always been good at having events in the game. You know, some of them are a little bit repetitive, like the Iron Banner and whatnot. But they've always done custom rewards, which is something that Destiny's been very good at. Always rewarding the players who pour an ungodly amount of time into the game. So yeah, I think that's great for Destiny players. I'm sure that they'll continue to get events through the end of this year. I'm curious to see what Destiny's plan is going into 2025. So that's kind of where my curiosity is pointing me. But speaking of more updates, yeah, you want to take this one?
I thought we were going to say it at the same time. I got really excited.
Oh, I'm sorry. We'll rehearse.
No. Well, yeah, we got to rehearse the whole podcast before we record it every time. Escalation of Freedom is coming to Helldivers 2, which is a new expansion that is free to everybody who owns the game. Comes out with bigger outposts, more mission types, and a difficulty 10, which is Super Helldive. Do you think you're going to do it, Paul? You think you're going to Super Helldive?
I mean, yeah, I am. Like, it's not what I wanted, but I'm going to do it. So,
yeah, I mean, you got it at this point. Your pride is on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I've done Helldives, so might as well make it a Super Helldive. Yeah, and like lots of content in this update. Also, very curious about the new enemies that they're adding. In like the Impaler for the bugs looks horrifying. Yeah. I vaguely remember it from Helldivers 1, vaguely. But yeah, absolutely freaking horrifying. What about you? Are you going to do the Super Helldive?
I don't know if I'm going to, I mean, I've got to get back to like getting my squad together that like knows what they're doing. I mean, listen, if we can play together, that might be the way to get me to do a Super Helldive.
Yeah.
But I've got a lot of, I just got to like shake the rust off a little bit and get back into shape. I'm really excited about this Spore Charger because that feels like a nightmare and also the most hilarious thing that can happen in the game. Like,
yeah,
you're blind.
Yep.
All of a sudden, the charger knocks you off your feet. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about this. I feel like they came out with this really sweet video and announced like all the developers sitting there talking about things that they're adding, and at the very end they said, is this everything in the update? Of course not. We would never tell you that. I think this is maybe sort of the update they needed to do to add an enemy faction.
To prep for it, lay the groundwork.
Yeah, I think like they're laying sort of the groundwork in the actual game for those guys to show up if they do. I mean, maybe they're holding their hand to wait till year 2 to drop the Illuminate, but
sure,
this does feel pretty big, and the Helldivers has just been the game that keeps on giving.
Yeah, for real. So, like, again, I'm super happy it's a free update. This is not, for clarification, this is not a war bond. So it's just a bunch of stuff that they're adding to the game all at once. I believe it comes out on August 6th, same day as actually the Destiny 2 Solstice event starts. But yeah, it comes out August 6th. Always happy to see more free content in Helldivers. So very excited about that. And they're also, speaking of War Bond, there has been some rumored leaks of a fire element based War Bond that is supposed to be coming out, which I have been clamoring for since the launch of the game, because I love using the flamethrower, especially against the bugs, and I've just wanted some flame resistant armor that is just not an armor effect that's in the game. I want more armor effects, and I would like them to even go back and change up some of the armor effects of armors currently in the game, because I have too many. Oh, you get 2 extra grenades, or oh, you get extra padding, or you can throw a little farther. It's just like, give me something useful, please. So
They really need to add like slots for your armor to add in like effects, I think, and then kind of vary those effects.
sure.
Because I feel like the reason they have kept it so tame is to be like, we want you to have your iconic look for your Helldiver. But I do think it would be fun, like when you're selecting the weapons you're going to take and the stratagems you're going to take, to really be like, oh, we're going to a planet with fire tornadoes, so I'm going to wear some fire resistant armor. That would be a really good idea to help just diversify like how much we can prepare a kit and suit it to the missions that we're going to do. So
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with what you're saying. Like, we just need more varied things to the armor. Also, helmet boosts, helmet mods that was in the original version of the game that they had to scrap to release it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like very slight, even if it's like 5% this, 5% that, something like.
Yeah.
So, or bonus if you're wearing the matching helmet to the armor set or something like that.
Yeah.
Even like that, you wouldn't even have to give helmets an ability. You'd just be able to be like, no, you get a bonus if you're wearing the armor. So, yeah, be very cool. All right, pressing right along. So the Olympics have officially voted to include esports. This has been a long journey for esports. Originally, they had pitched to the Olympics back in 2006. So almost going on 20 years of a journey. And so they've officially voted to include esports. And this is common with the Olympics, where there's, new sports added all the time. And the pushback against having esports in the Olympics sooner has been that they've feared, judging them. And, how are they going to judge the esports? What esports or what games are going to actually be official esports games that are going to be recognized by the Olympics? And what is the commercial manipulation of this, where it's like, oh, well, this guy's being sponsored by Call of Duty, and Call of Duty's an esport. Does he have an unfair advantage of some kind? Something like that. So it's definitely new territory. I'm excited about this because it means, esports are going to be taken more seriously. But yeah, what games or game sports would you like to see at the Olympics, Phil?
First answer right off the top of the dome is Rocket League. That is a game that is so cool, or a sport that is so cool, that people have tried to recreate it in real life since the development of the game. I think first person shooters and everything are a way to add, like, would be great. Even something like Splitgate that is a little less saturated with a bunch of different things to do, just a concept. I will say, yeah, about like judges and stuff like that, it's interesting because the game does a lot of that for you. Like, it tells you how this happened, or gives you a score already. It gives you all of these things.
Right.
And I think something else that would be really fun is like speed running. Like, there is a game that gets set every year for the Olympics, and people try to like set a speed run record for it.
Yeah, I guess does that need to be live? You know what I mean? Because if speedrunners are just filming what they're doing, because they're not directly, like, as a swimmer, like you have to swim against the other swimmers. It doesn't matter what you did independently, even if you film it or whatnot. But for speed running, is it like, I guess, would it matter? Like, can you speed run this right now?
Yeah, I think that would actually be really fun. Like, you have an hour block to speed run a specific game that you find out a little ways in advance.
Yeah.
Granted, that would be pretty difficult, but
yes. So I don't know speed. I don't know too much about speedrunning. I'm obviously already talked about this game earlier in the podcast. Gonna go the finals. I want the finals in the Olympics. Let's go. The finals needs to be an esport. I get like we got a lot of MOBAs and stuff that are up there. Overwatch is currently an esport. I want
Yeah.
the finals, man. I want it so bad. And I don't know if you know this, Phil, but they released a like a Gundam skin in the finals now. So
Oh, did they? Very cool.
they're expanding their cosmetics a little bit, so you
Nice.
can just So I bought it because I've earned the in-game currency, and and I've been running around as a giant Gundam with a sledgehammer cosmetic as a guitar. So
That's very cool.
it's
That's amazing.
it's been great.
I will say also the final, such a good looking game. Like it's just so pretty. The lighting in there, the character models, like
Yeah.
that. I'm happy that they're getting more cosmetics because their engine is just so good. It makes things look ridiculous.
Yeah, for real. It's like, yeah, I freaking love it. So, yeah, let me get some finals in the esports. It's already set up. It's already called the finals. It's already
Yeah,
like a competitive pyramid.
it's themed for it. It's themed for it.
It is.
If you're gonna put a shooter in there, one that doesn't have like a crazy variety of weapons that's like can be broken, I feel like the finals is pretty well balanced, but if you go into Call of Duty, there's always some meta and some like tweaking that's going on to change a gun.
Yeah, but I think I don't know. Now we're getting into weird territory because there'd be a lot of esports players. They're like, well, the meta is the game.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
Um
so yeah. All right, let's get into Marvel Rivals. Phil, you've gotten a chance to play the alpha. What are your thoughts?
um it is 100% Overwatch with Marvel characters. Adding to that, I will never play Overwatch again so long as I have access to play Marvel Rivals because it is a set of characters that I enjoy. Um, Going a little bit deeper, Marvel Rivals does a lot of interesting things. Obviously, it's a third-person game immediately, so changes the view a little bit. And there are different classes, and the characters that they've kind of all added in there really do play like Overwatch characters, but with a really good Marvel theming. Star Lord is basically Tracer, with almost all of her abilities, except someone else can like warp back in time. And I believe it's Doctor Strange.
Sure.
Yeah, I get visually it is like such a stunning looking game because like they didn't go for photorealism and they went for this weird sort of like artistic style that looks like it's mid comic, and kind of a cartoon came to life. And the level designs are pretty impressive. There's one that's like a Spider-Man themed San Francisco, so like a
Wow.
futuristic
Okay.
Eastern city. Yeah. And when you get in the match, like you select your character, they get pulled into a tram that like or like a subway, a train that is held up by spider webs that like shoot out from as the train is forming. It's it has nothing to do with the game, but like visually, the sort of like loading screens and the theming are so good. I was playing as Venom earlier because that's been sort of my main. He's a tank, goes in and just like hits people, and then you swing out, recover your health, come in and hit people. But he was on a level with Star Lord, and he like starts talking to Star Lord as you're just sort of near him, and he's like, "Hey, I think you've been to my home planet. I can smell it on you. How did you survive?" And Star Lord's like, "Oh, I just shot a bunch of stuff." Um, so they kind of have a lot of deep cuts in there if you're a Marvel fan, but the
Yeah.
gameplay is surprisingly fun. The main issue I've had with the game is crashes, and I'm trying to figure out a way around it because every time I get pulled out of a game, I'm just so upset. 'Cause I'm like, that was so much fun. I was doing the thing. But yeah, I'm hopefully going to get another beta code so maybe we can play on stream together. But
Absolutely.
are there any questions that you've thought like from seeing the game in its previews that you're like, oh, what's this like?
Yeah, I got several questions. Like
Hell yeah.
first off the bat, like when you describe it, like comparing it to Overwatch, is what is it just like a PvP, like a team deathmatch kind of a thing, or is there an objective that you're focusing on in the game? Is it 5v5? Like, what does a match look like? Or like, what is the main game mode, I should say?
I believe it is 5v5. I'm trying to remember if I think it is 5v5. And a lot of it is basically Overwatch, like in the sort of like spider Eastern futuristic city themed levels. You're trying to move a spider bot, like you're assisting it and guiding it down the road to its location. But I did play a couple of Asgard levels where you're trying to just capture and hold a spot. I haven't played a team deathmatch. Those have been the two main ones that I've played, or like, go and attack a location while the other team's defending it and like push them back, or they push you. They're on defense and you're on offense, trying to like push them from one location to the next, all the way back to their spawn and kill them.
And then the time to kill, like, is it? I figured like with them being superheroes and whatnot, people have more health than usual games. Yeah.
I think to a degree, I feel like, when I've played as people that are not tanks, I do feel like I'm dying kind of fast.
Okay.
Not in unspeakably fast way, but there are characters that are definitely pretty squishy. Like Scarlet Witch does so much damage, but then once you get kind of targeted by a tank, it's game over unless you can find some mobility. The game does a lot of ways of letting you reset and like re-enter a combat, which is great. Yeah. I'm trying to think of there was one other thing that I wanted to talk. Sorry, your next question. What do you got?
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. I guess like because we've been playing Concord. Like, would you say that the time to kill is longer than Concord?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You definitely get a lot of like notification that you are being targeted. I will say that the game is a little bit hectic. Like Concord, you can kind of, because it's a first-person shooter, you typically, like, if you're in a long-range shootout, you know what's going on. Maybe someone can get the jump on you. But because everybody is crowding one area in this game, it can get a little, like, you're just seeing effects go off, and you're not sure who's healing you or who's doing what.
Like over stimulation saturation.
Yeah, and it's very brightly colored. Like, I think this game should probably come with an epilepsy warning of some kind because there's just so much happening.
Sure.
One of the standouts that I actually have enjoyed playing as a little bit is Loki as a support. And one of his support features is he makes a copy of himself. And like you place it somewhere, you place another copy. And whenever you target someone to heal them or to do damage to an enemy, all of the copies, if they could see it, they target it.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Right on. Well, I mean, like, I think it's a great idea. This game, obviously, with all the Marvel characters, we talked about it a little bit last week. I think this is a great universe and fit to do this type of game. And I've downloaded Star Wars Hunters on my phone, so I'm guessing it's a little similar to that. I'm probably more complicated because it's not a phone game, but yeah, I'm definitely curious to play it. I think that do you know if this is going to be released as a free to play game or is this a purchasable game?
I believe it is going to be free to play, which gives me a little trepidation, but so long as it keeps the quality up, like I think it should be a pretty fun like Overwatch competitor, if not Overwatch killer. It is a little bit bummer after we played Concord and like, I can get $40 and like get this whole game.
Yep.
I could probably pay more to get other stuff, but I do think this is going to be like heavily reliant on the battle pass stuff, because even in the beta, there's like, you can unlock this thing forever if you reach the end of this battle pass. So I feel like they're already priming us for getting through a battle pass. But
yeah. Okay.
The missions for your characters, like there are character individual missions that give you specific like aesthetic things for your characters. Like you can get a special spray paint or like a special skin for webbing up 50 foes if you're playing a Spider-Man. So it's pretty fun.
50 foes.
50 foes.
Right.
Hopefully we could play that on a stream once I get another beta key from.
You just got to get to level 6, man. Level 6.
I got to do it.
You better do it after this. You better do it after this. So,
Yeah.
You're on the clock. All right. So moving on in the news, there's a new basketball game that has been announced. It's kind of a spiritual successor to NBA Street. It's called The Run Got Next, and it's going to be coming to PC, Xbox, PS5 in 2025. And it's got definitely an interesting style. It's a 3v3 basketball game as opposed to a 5v5, and so that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm all for like goofy sports games that, you know, feel a little bit more like you're playing sports anime than than like a simulation or something like that. And you know, with sometimes in 2K when you get the characters so leveled up, it feels like, you know, goofy anyway. So so yeah, I know you're a fan of NBA Street. Are you excited for The Run Got Next?
Yeah, I feel like even NBA Street was a spiritual successor to NBA Jam, the
Yes.
original silly game. And I think that this is exactly what sports games kind of need, because it can get very repetitive just getting like, NBA 2K19, NBA
Right.
2K20. Give me something with like built from the ground up to be different than just the actual game, and I get more excited. So yeah, very into this one. Excited for when it comes out. And I really love the style. It's got this sort of early aughts like
Yeah, a little cell
anime
shaded, a little bit.
cell shade aesthetic. Yeah, it reminds me of Jet Set Radio, but like with updated graphics, and very into that.
It kind of reminds me
So
of Street Fighter, the graphic style. Very Street Fighter-y to me.
very the character design kind of screams Street Fighter.
Yeah, so I'm very curious. We didn't really get to see much about it other than an announcement trailer. So definitely curious about it. I'm excited to see like real gameplay. So that should be exciting. So we'll be on the lookout for an actual gameplay trailer for The Run Got Next. All right, time for the biggest news story this week. The Cybertruck is officially in Fortnite. Oh, God.
Those of you watching stream can see Paul having an episode of me disassociating. I'm just like the
Here's the
camera
weird.
pans out
Yep.
from me, and you see my parents fighting, and little Phil just standing there, the same look on his face. Why are we doing this to Fortnite?
Oh, like here's the thing though, is like it's free. You don't buy the Cybertruck, and so you can just earn it through I think quests that you do in Fortnite. And this is not the first game that the Cybertruck is in, by the way. So that's a little disconcerting. But the Fortnite community is rallying around this bull crap, and they've been taking to Reddit and X and other social medias to basically say if you see anyone driving in a Cybertruck, then there is a truce in the lobby until that person in the Cybertruck is dead.
Oh, that's good.
So they're specifically targeting people driving Cybertrucks.
Okay, I thought they were on board. I was
no,
really
no.
sad for that. No, that's great. Okay, good. Yes.
I mean, have you seen a Cybertruck in person? It is the most obnoxious thing. Like, oh my God.
I do feel like whenever I'm on the street and we see a Cybertruck, there is a truce amongst all drivers until we can just make that person regret their purchase. I do. This has appeared in another game, right? It was an N64 game because they didn't have the textures loaded in, right? It was probably a racing game for that.
Yeah, man. It's just actually made of pure polygons, the real version. That's how Musk made it. It's just polygons from old video games. Oh, man.
Ooh, leftover polygons from Tomb Raider. These are actually parts of Lara Croft that left over.
Oh my God. This is so weird. And because like, I feel like this is just clearly a marketing campaign of like, we want to make Cybertrucks, more, I don't know. Like, I feel like people know what they are. I guess it's just more liked. But it's like you're putting it in a game, and like there's tons of adults who play Fortnite, but you're putting it in a game that majority wise is played by kids. Like, what do they care about the Cybertruck? Are you trying to sell them a Hot Wheel? Like, I don't know. Like, what are we doing? Like, why is this in? Why was Elon Musk be like, you know what? We need the Cybertruck in Fortnite. That's what we need. I guess maybe it's just an attempt to normalize how it looks.
I think that's it. I think they're trying to buy the next generation on like, oh, remember when you had that Cybertruck in Fortnite? Like they're trying to make it a mimetic like thing that people are into, so that they can maybe make the Cybertruck cool. But I think
Oh,
putting it in Fortnite was the mistake. If you want to make it cool, like nobody plays Fortnite because it's cool. We play Fortnite because it's fun and a little cringy. Like that's what it is. But I do, yeah. I think just this is like proliferation of the Cybertruck to be like, hey, this is normal. This is cool. Everybody should get it.
so
I
you,
hate this.
so you think it's a little bit of indoctrination? So like, if a 13-year-old is playing Fortnite right now, and they're like, "Oh, I got the Cybertruck," and then they become an adult and like, "I can get the Cybertruck in real life." So do you think that's what it is?
I think that's like the goal. I don't
Okay.
think it's gonna ever work out, but
I mean, it could, just full Inception. So, God, very weird news story. So yeah. All right, moving into our last topic of the podcast. So Ubisoft, we brought this up in a previous podcast. I believe it was maybe a month ago, maybe a month and a half, something like that. Back during E3 or the Summer Games Fest, when we got a lot of details around Assassin's Creed Shadows, there was some backlash because particularly of Yasuke, that was featured in the game as the Black Samurai character, the historical figure Black Samurai character in the game. And this kind of came out of left field for me because like we responded to the backlash when it happened, but now all of a sudden Ubisoft has decided to have a lengthy press release and statement responding to particularly the Japanese fan base of the game and just fan base of Ubisoft games in general. So yeah, I don't. Do you have any? I have a lot to say about this, Phil, but do you have any initial thoughts after going through this statement?
yeah, I like was sort of like piecing back through it as you were introing it to be like, okay, so let me make sure I have this correct. The mostly what they're apologizing for is it's saying Yasuke is a samurai, and that's what's up for debate.
Hmm.
They do realize that the Assassin's Creed games also talk about ancient aliens,
Hmm.
and like
Yeah.
this reminds me of when PETA was really upset at Assassin's Creed because you could whale in Assassin's Creed 4, like you could hunt whales, and
Yeah.
then Assassin's Creed was like, "Yeah, sorry, we thought the killing people and killing whales thing might kind of clue people off that it was a video game." So this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, Assassin's Creed, they put a lot of pride in their historical accuracy and things of that nature. So that's part of it. But also, I don't care. It's a video game. He can literally do an attack where he like summons a whirlwind of the stuff around him and hits people. Like,
Yeah.
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 What are your thoughts?
I think like um, I don't know. I think the issue is complicated, but overall, like I think this is like who cares? But I also can sit on my pedestal and say that because of my American sensibilities. And so, like, I think when we initially saw Yasuke as the samurai in the game, we were like, yeah, who cares? He's a historical figure. We want more, black people in roles and whatnot. And so, like, we've been very much in that mode as Americans. And, like, we have to remember, like, you're dealing with other cultures. I think that everybody thinks that Americans are very sensitive. And the reality worldwide, in my opinion, is that we are one of the most diverse countries in the world. And so we may appear sensitive, but it's because we have more different kinds of people in one place than anywhere else. And so we're the country who has to sort out these social and diverse issues. And so like when we, like, for example, like, I don't know if anybody's watching House of the Dragon, and no spoilers for people watching House of the Dragon, but there was a scene, and I won't say who or anything like that, or very minor spoiler warning, I won't name any characters, but there was a scene where two people kiss and they happen to be the same gender in this latest episode of House of the Dragon. And it has been review bombed, House of the Dragon, in Saudi Arabia. So now it has like a 1-star rating in Saudi Arabia because of that scene. And it's just like, yeah, well, that's them being offended at, American culture and American sensibilities. And I think that this is a similar thing where Japanese people are getting offended by American culture and American sensibilities. And I think the important thing to remember is that House of the Dragon is made up, and so is Assassin's Creed. It is a fantasy universe. Yes, they are based on certain things. More so Assassin's Creed. I will give Assassin's Creed, like, yeah, it is basing it directly off of Japanese culture and history. And one of their big shticks is like, we want to make it as immersive and as true to Japan or Greece or Viking invaded England as possible, but it's also like fantastical. And it's not like you were just talking about, them using fantasy powers, and like how in Assassin's Creed Valhalla you're Eivor, but you're also Odin, and you can summon spirits and do giant leaps of faith where you jump off of a 300-meter cliff and magically survive, and so it's a video game. It's fantasy, and it may be historical fantasy or historical fiction, but it's just, I think this is just a question about sensibilities. And Ghost of Tsushima got a lot of backlash when it came out because it, particularly, I believe, Chinese,
and the Mongolian folks,
well, particularly northern Chinese citizens who have ancestry to the Mongol Empire and to Genghis Khan and everything like that, or Genghis Khan, sorry. So they got very offended because in Ghost of Tsushima you're fighting the Mongols and those are their ancestors, and it's like I think that this is why like the German Nazis have been used in video games so much, is because the Germans know that, like, hey, we were very bad. Yeah. We were very bad. It was recent. So we're not going to complain about it. So
I do think that that's an attitude that needs to be taken more over in general. Like, whatever the situation was that caused people to come from northern China, whatever, to attack the people of Japan, like, to that character, to the hero's point of view, those were the bad guys.
Yeah.
And you are playing from that point of view. And I think, culturally, I definitely understand that maybe people in Japan might be like a little bummed about, seeing Yasuke. But that's also kind of some weird sexism, because you do have a Japanese born, like, very phenotypically genetic Japanese person who is also a main character in the game. And you know what? If we're gonna start picking all this, I'm not Italian, but on behalf of my Italian friends, I don't think that they all look like Mario and Luigi.
I mean, like, I don't know. I kind of look like Luigi. No, I'm just kidding.
You are beautifully tall and powerful, and I love that about you. No, I think that, like, if I don't know, I feel like the sort of getting offended by this, especially about like things that don't have to do with the content of someone's character, but just like physical features about them, or the Game of Thrones thing for people in Saudi Arabia. Like, yeah, it's made up, but so are your rules that say that can't happen, which I know is like a little offensive, but for me, I'm like, yeah, gay people exist. I'd rather protect them than like someone's feelings.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
similarly, Yasuke was a real person made by like a bunch of a multicultural crew who makes the Assassin's Creed games. They put that in every like opening of the game.
Yep.
Hey, this is historical fiction. So and ultimately, I think Ubisoft just sort of like gave themselves an L because everybody forgot about it and they were like,
Yeah.
"Hey, reminder, we're sorry."
I mean, I guess there was just a lot of complaining in media coming out of Japan specifically that we probably weren't privy to,
Mm.
or if they've been receiving, not public letters or like emails, or maybe their PR team was overwhelmed with all of the complaining. We don't really know, but as far as we could tell, yeah, this came out of nowhere. They dug up this issue, and I really don't know what to say about it. I think that Ubisoft, I don't know, there is a culture of like, oh, we should apologize. But sometimes when you apologize for something that you necessarily shouldn't be apologizing for, like, I don't know, it kind of blows back up in your face. Because like you're now it really feels like, oh, they really did something wrong now, when I don't really know that they did. And it's again, like you mentioned, Yasuke is a historical figure. Are they going to take liberties with what happened? Absolutely, they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure none of the stuff in the game is really what happened, but but it's just they didn't pull him out of thin air. They didn't make him, this or that. And, I think, like you said, there is some sexism wrapped into this because there is a Japanese character. I think that's probably why they decided to go with two characters. There's like, we want to do Yasuke, but we also want to make sure that there's a Japanese character that you can play as in the game. But having a Japanese woman isn't good enough. And so, yeah, I think this is a question of, sexism and some other isms, and that's all that really needs to be said. So
Hell yeah.
yeah. All right.
Hey,
Well,
I'm gonna play the brakes off this game when it comes out. I'm pretty stoked. I know it's Assassin's Creed and they get a little formulaic,
yeah,
but I'm ready.
yeah. So I'm very curious to see how good it is. It's the first. Well, I don't know. I bought so many of the Assassin's Creeds. I think I only didn't buy one of them, maybe two. So I'll probably go back to this one as well. But yeah, all right. Well, we're going to end it there for the GGG podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you so much. We are at 299 subscribers on YouTube. I would love one singular more subscriber to get to 300. That would be amazing. And we've been getting some good clicks through our audio only versions of the podcast, particularly on Spotify. So that's been great as well. Really appreciate everybody listening out there. But yeah, if you could support us a little bit more by liking and subscribing our YouTube channel, or following us or rating us, giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, that would be swell. So amazing. God, I can't believe July is almost over, Phil.
I know.
But that means August games come back out. We actually get to talk about new releases. So that's exciting.
That is going to be a crazy time when we don't have to like fish through news stories and be like a morsel, a drop of news,
Yes.
a drop of something.
I must find some news in between all the Deadpool and Wolverine press.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some new blood in our system. But yeah. Thanks again for having me, Paul. Very excited for that 300th listen. And make it. Somebody make another email and just freaking subscribe. Come on, come on, do it.
No, tell your friends. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your mom.
Share the
You'll love it.
podcast. Do something like that. All right, we are out of here. Peace out.
Peace.